Hey guys, so we're just coming to you today with an interview with one of our old members and old wrestling coaches, Alex Bowers. So Alex was a wrestling coach here for quite some time, and funny enough, he was actually the first MMA fighter out of our gym. So first ever fighter out of our gym was Will Douglas, and like 2 months after that, I think, was Alex's MMA debut. So like funny enough, a lot of people don't realize that, but Alex was actually the first MMA fighter out of our gym, not even me. So he actually fought before I did. And he was the first MMA fighter out of our gym to fight for an amateur title as well, and we'll talk about that later. He was also the first fighter out of the gym to get a knockdown in the gym's history. So just cool little stats like that. Some of you might know Alex, some of you probably don't. We have a ton of new members since the last time he was here, and he ended up leaving us. He got a job opportunity and kind of left me hanging dry. So, yeah, we're real close friends, and thankfully he came up this weekend and shot some videos for you guys to show you some awesome wrestling techniques. So hope you guys enjoy that. But yeah, I just wanted to do like a quick interview with him. We'll see how quick it is, but just some things that I think will be beneficial for you guys, like fighters that are wrestlers coming into MMA. Things that some perspective he might have that might be cool for you guys, but also too just to kind of get to know him because he is an integral part of our gym's history, whether he admits it or not. He's too modest for that. But so yeah, so first things first, my man, is obviously you wrestled for a long, long time. Like what age were you when you got into wrestling, and like what kind of got you into it?
Yeah, so I started wrestling in seventh grade, so what is that, 11, 12, that age group.
Mm.
Really just because I'm from Indiana and I wasn't going to make the basketball team, and I'm a terrible swimmer. So at the time, like I did three sports. I wanted to stay a three-sport athlete, so my stepdad wrestled in high school. He's like, well, you're like 80 pounds, just try this out. So I went and joined the wrestling team, and then the next year I quit all other sports and just stuck with that, and ended up having an 11-year career in
Wow,
wrestling.
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so if you combine your time wrestling from when you started to all of college, I mean, how many years is that? Would you say combined?
Through up to now, it's been 15.
Okay, so, and
15 or
obviously, yeah,
16
you're still
years.
wrestling. So I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, that's nuts.
yeah, still coaching wrestling. So
Yep, yep. So what? I know, and it's been so long, but what kind of I guess accomplishments or anything notable that you did in high school? Like any your career record or any like titles that you won or anything like that?
nothing like too notable. I never made the state. Indiana's a one class state. We don't have
Mm,
any 3A. It's all wrestling is just one division. I lost in the round to go to state 2 years in a row.
mm,
I mean, I was the first county champion for my school.
yeah.
Doesn't mean I had 100 wins in my career.
Mm-hmm.
My senior year, I was 35-3, so that was probably the
Yeah.
best I had.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing too notable. I mean, I won a tournament in college and was always placing at tournaments. So
Mm-hmm.
4 year, I've lettered all 4 years at Augustana. I lettered all 4 years at my high school. I was
Mm-hmm.
never really out of the starting lineup,
Mm-hmm.
except for in college. I was in and out, but in high school, never out of the starting lineup.
Okay.
So yeah, nothing too notable, but I was always involved.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Were you on like the national team or anything?
Yeah, I made the junior duels team for Greco.
Yeah.
My junior and senior year. I only went my junior year.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought I remember something like that. I know anybody that's maybe wrestled Alex at the gym from back in the day knows that he's got quite the Greco game. So that's one thing I always remembered about you for sure. And where did you wrestle in college again?
Wrestled at Augustana College in Rock Island, Illinois. It's right on the Illinois-Iowa borders in the Quad Cities.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little 5-hour trip from my hometown, but
Yeah.
it's where I wanted to go.
What was and I remember too. There was a cool thing about I think Jurgensen, your coach. He trained under Dan Gable, right?
Yeah, my college coach was Eric Jurgens. He was a 4-time undefeated state champ from Iowa. Was Dan Gable's last recruiting class at Iowa, and was a 4-time All-American, 2-time national champion
Yeah.
for
Wow.
the University of Iowa. So he was a
He's pretty
good guy to learn from.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it speaks volumes because I mean, even the way you wrestle, you wrestle at a much higher level than some people would think if they just looked at maybe your high school career or college career. You know what I mean? There's some guys that come from huge, accomplished state universities, and I mean, they don't really translate it very well when it comes to like jujitsu or MMA. What was wrestling in college like?
Wrestling in college was one of the most brutal, but also like the most rewarding things, and you don't really realize how like brutal it was and how much you did until after.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say I was like brainwashed, but you're just so into what your goals are and what you want to do that those 3 workouts a day just seem normal to you, especially when you have people around you doing the same thing. You don't really think it's any different.
Mm-hmm.
And that really translated over for coming here to train for MMA and jiu-jitsu. Like I had no problem doing 2-3 practices in a row because it's all I really knew. And it wasn't until I was out of wrestling for like a year that I looked back and I was like, okay, that was a little insane. Like I probably shouldn't have been doing all that, but yeah, definitely brutal, but also most rewarding thing. A lot of my best friends in the world are still from my college team.
Mm-hmm.
We still get together a couple times a year. They came up here for a couple of my fights.
Yep.
Like it was
rowdy.
Yeah, it was a little rowdy, but it was a lot of fun, and
yeah,
I really appreciate those times.
Yeah, no, and I always hear that too from like one guy I can think of off the top of my head is TJ Dillashaw. I mean, he still to this day was a multiple UFC champion. And still says to this day that wrestling is the hardest sport in the world, and college wrestling, in his words, were the hardest thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
Would you say that's pretty accurate still?
Yeah, I'd say it's accurate. It's different, but it's pretty hard because.
What do you think makes it a little bit harder than say like a tough training camp for a fight or something like that?
Well, fighting, like you only fight once every couple months unless you're somebody like Cowboy Cerrone who's fighting every 3 weeks. It's something insane. So you have these big breaks and you take breaks in between. You're doing different things. You have kickboxing, then you do wrestling, then you do jiu-jitsu. Where in a college wrestling season, I mean, it's all you're doing, and you're making weight 2 to 3 times a week,
mm-hmm.
sometimes back-to-back days, and so all you're doing is going in the room and wrestling every day, doing the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
And then making weight, competing, maybe get a day off if it's like a Saturday tournament. You might take Sunday off unless you have to cut weight and you got to run.
Yeah.
And then you're back at it 6, 7 a.m. Monday morning doing it all over again. So until season ends, you don't really get a lot of breaks.
Yeah, just like that nonstop grind.
Mm-hmm. It starts in September and in college you go till March.
Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah, no, that's insane. And I get it too, because I mean, like you've seen and I've seen many times, you get wrestlers that come into the gym, especially college wrestlers, typically always have a really good work ethic. I mean, especially when they're coming straight from college, they get out of college and they're so used to that routine.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what got you into training MMA at our gym? Obviously some people might not know you born and raised in Indiana, moved to Rockford, Illinois.
Rock
Island, my bad. And went to college there, and then after that, you got a job, correct, right? That transferred you to Appleton of all places? Or did you choose to?
No, I originally applied because I went to school in Illinois. So I was originally applying to jobs in like the Chicagoland area, actually where I live now. And I got it. I got my first job, and they told me like, we don't have an opening at our Chicago branch. We have an opening in Appleton, Wisconsin. And funny enough, my sister was actually living here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
We had a 2-day crossover. She moved to Denver 2 days after I moved to Appleton.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't remember that. That's funny.
Yeah, so I was like, whatever. It's my first job out of college. I'm going to move out of state. Now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
So I moved up here, got here August 1st, and actually I wanted to keep training. I knew if I didn't have, especially for me, like I've been in practices for so long that
mm-hmm.
I really can't just go to the gym and lift.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me just to go get on a treadmill or just work out for no reason. I need a goal. I need something to be trained. I need practices is what
mm-hmm.
really gets me motivated.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking at just like, I'll just do, like, I'm pretty much done with grappling. I'll just do some kickboxing or some striking or something. Like, it's not a big deal. Just something to stay in shape.
Yeah.
And you know this one, but I emailed every gym in the Fox Valley area. I was looking for a place to train, and you guys were the only ones to email me back.
Yeah, to this day, right?
Yeah, to this day. Nobody's still emailed me after like the fights or anything. Nobody emailed me back.
Yeah.
And so I came here and started training here, and started off just with kickboxing, and then you had me come in to do wrestling practice.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, it's the same thing. Just jump in and do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So then I just started doing all three and just became routine of do a full day every day.
Yeah, and I don't, if I remember correctly, you didn't really like have plans to do MMA, did you? Or like not like seriously?
No, I honestly was thinking about doing it like once, like a bucket list thing.
Yeah.
And then I mean, I just wanted to keep training, and I like jiu-jitsu a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I like kickboxing. I like Muay Thai. I like learning new things and doing techniques and showing techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I really had plans on fighting. I just really wanted to keep
training.
Yeah, keep training.
Yeah. Yeah, so and it's funny though, because like you said, you basically were just looking to just stay in shape for the most part, and then you know, obviously stumble upon us, and you get stuck with us because there's no other fucking gym. Email them back. So that's been the story of a lot of members that come to our gym actually. So now that's so funny. Okay, so then obviously, yeah, you joined in I think actually the first year. Yeah, it was the first year that we were open. So it was like 3-4 months after we opened, and I think you fought in March of 2017. So you joined like August 2016. And then, yeah, a little over 6 months later, you made your amateur MMA debut. You had 3 fights as an amateur, fought for a title at the end, the last fight. Tell us about your first fight. Tell us what was that experience like, and you know, just the emotions kind of going into your first MMA fight. Like, was it a lot different than the college wrestling experience, or what? You know what I mean? Like, just kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, like I said, you know, like really planning on fighting. Like I was sparring because you needed sparring partners.
Yeah.
Especially like, everybody needed wrestlers, so I was sparring a lot and just kind of staying in shape. And then you had a fight and you got cut.
That's right. Yeah.
And you texted me, and I was at my sister's wedding, and he texted me saying, "I'm out of the fight. Do you want to step in my place?"
Yeah.
So I did, and then like that whole event got canceled.
Yeah, that's right. Because I was. Well, originally I was supposed to make my amateur kickboxing debut. Was going to be in January on the card that Will fought on, I think.
No, it was supposed to be an MMA fight in Green Bay.
I don't know. So I had a kickboxing fight. I was going to do the one that Will did in January. And then we were like, nah, let's just do MMA first fight. And then, yeah, it was going to be February 11th in Green Bay. I remember that because obviously fighting so close to home was going to be so cool. And yeah, I get cut in sparring or whatever it was. And yeah, I texted you that night. I said, hey, do you want to fight in like, I think it was like a month before the fight, 6 weeks or something.
It was New Year's Eve because I was at my sister's wedding.
Yeah, that's right.
I was wearing a tux at a wedding with a beer in my hand. He texted me, asked if I want to fight in a month.
Yeah, and of course he said yes, like typical Alex fashion. And then yeah, that fight ended up not pulling through. Whole event got canceled. But then we found the King of the Cage spot, and that was in Kashina, right? Yeah, that's right. Yep. And you fought. What was that dude's name?
Tyler Richardson.
Yes, Tyler Richardson. Yeah,
Richardson.
The Lionheart.
Yeah, the Lion.
Yeah. And that was his debut fight as well. And actually, he had an opponent for that fight. The guy was, we're going to just be completely honest, the guy was a can. He had a tap-out tattoo on his chest. So if that gives you any idea of how bad he was.
He was like 0-6, but that was the only person they could find for us at the time.
Yeah, we don't ever try to find these cans, but especially King of the Cage is just sometimes all you can get, especially debut fights. It is
we
hard.
Originally rejected it. We're like, no, we can't find anybody else. This is your option if you want to fight.
Yeah, so we took that fight. Tyler Crum was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I should look him up, see what he's doing now. But that fight ended up falling through, and wasn't it like 2 weeks before the fight?
It was like the week before, yeah.
I think it was the week before. So his amateur debut, the guy pulls out somebody that we actually had some footage on, some rough footage. And then we get this other guy that was his debut fight as well, Tyler Richardson, and actually came from a gym, like an actual MMA gym. They actually have had guys like headline on LFA, not at that time, but ended up, so it was like a legit gym, Faithful-Lick MMA. Where were they from? Do you remember?
Iowa, somewhere in Iowa.
Yeah, that's right. It's Iowa. Yeah, because I've actually seen those guys out and about when we've gone to other fights now in Iowa. But yeah, so tell us about that. Like a week before, your opponent changes, and obviously the dude was actually more legit. You know what I mean? Comes from an actual MMA gym with actual coaches. I think the other guy was an independent fighter. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, it was nerve-wracking. I mean, I got nervous for every wrestling match. So, like, nerves are always a part of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, preparation, I was never really nervous in training or anything, because it's just always kind of been what I've done. It's just always been practice, training, and there's always an end goal. And I mean, I knew I was gonna be nervous for the fight, but like at weigh-ins, it was different. It was weird. You remember, they started like an hour and a half late.
Yes. And always.
I ended up being like 3 pounds underweight because we sat for like 4 hours.
He was pissed.
I was so mad.
I was just like, dude, you made weight. Who gives a fuck? I get it though now, like, you're when you cut, because you just cut too much, like you cut more than you need to, but I mean, he cuts weight like a pro.
I floated like 2.5 pounds this week when we got there to when they finally weighed us in. Yeah,
every MMA event never runs on time, just so anybody is wondering. So,
but yeah, I mean, it was nervous, and luckily, like, I have a bunch of good friends from college that they all came up.
That's right.
They stayed at my apartment. They came to the gym. cracked open beers during the walkthrough.
Yeah. So like most if most of you guys don't know, we always do like a walkthrough. At least most of our guys do. I do every fight. So like around 11 noon of the day of the fight, I love to do a walkthrough. I think you do too. I think that's what your preference.
Yeah.
Just after you cut weight, you put on back all that weight, and it's good to get the blood flowing again. I mean, most fighters that I know in the UFC do that as well. But yeah, they it was at our old gym too. So all this time, this was at our old gym. It was a little square, and we had one locker room. So the ladies, I hope you guys are happy about this as well, that we have 2 locker rooms now, one dedicated for the ladies. It was a mess. The gym was so tiny, but yeah, the morning of the fight, we're getting him ready, and of course he's nervous, and it's his first time, and he's got 4 or 5 wrestling buddies sitting on the chairs, which took up pretty much all of the spectator room, and they just crack open a beer. This is like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. I was like, oh, this is gonna be an interesting night.
Yeah, well, luckily, like, I had those guys around, and I always liked having them around just because I spent 5 years with them in college. Like they were always a part of my locker room. They knew me. They knew how to keep me calm, like keep me distracted. They knew otherwise I'll just sit there and think about it all the time. So I really liked having those guys around.
Yeah. Well, I could assume it makes you feel normal too.
Yeah, it made it feel more like a wrestling match than it did for like a fight until we got to the back room and then it was just us.
Yeah.
And even then, like I was nervous and it was pretty normal nerves.
Yeah.
But then, like, finally the walkout, I just remember sitting in the cage, like, kissing the cage, like, what the hell am I doing in here? I'm like, I could have just gotten an assistant wrestling coach job. Like, I don't know why I'm in here. They're saying the announcer talking, like, don't say my name. Like, when it's going to start.
And mind you guys, too, this is King of the Cage. So at the time, King of the Cage no longer does this, to my knowledge. But as an amateur, you could fight full pro rules. So he's going into his first fight. He can throw knees and elbows to the head, on the ground. I mean, it's not just like a normal MMA fight, really. Like you're doing pro rules your first fight. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, but so we go in, and I remember I had so many thoughts going through my head, like move your head, move your feet, do this, like all this stuff. Kid came out and just cracked me right, and like not like rocked me, but he punched me square in the eye.
Yeah.
First punch he threw right in the eye. I just remember like being like, damn it. My eye starts watering, and so and like as soon as he hit me, it just all cleared out. I was like, all right, get the takedown. Just wrestle him, and I got the takedown. I got 2 takedowns. Took him down. He went for a guillotine. He got back up, hit him with a foot sweep. Went back down again. And we talked about this the whole fight camp. Of you're gonna take him down. You might have to do it twice. You're gonna get to mount. He's gonna give up his back, and that's gonna be it. And sure enough, like I slid right to mount. Started dropping elbows. He rolled over, got the rear naked choke. Finish. Andrew's shaking the cage on the side, yelling "one and fucking done." Even though in the pre-fight meeting they said no cussing because this is going to be on TV.
So if you guys ever want to watch his fights, they are his first 2 are on UFC Fight Pass on the King of the Cage fights. But I may or may not have been super pumped up, and I may or may not have a reputation of doing this after a lot of people win. I've gotten a lot better, but yeah, it was our second ever fight as a gym. Our first one was Will, and I was just as pumped for that. But seeing him go in the cage under a lot of stress, opponent changes the week before, and we had gotten so close. I definitely get way more nervous as a coach. I think you agree, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, quite literally, as soon as he won, my hands were through the cage, like oh yeah! The commissioner told me afterwards, don't ever do that again. So I still do that sometimes. But yeah, how did that feel though? Getting your hand raised, like all of that hard work, all the anticipation, all the nerves.
Yeah. I mean, it felt great. It was definitely one of the best feelings. Like, it's definitely addicting. I'll never forget all my wrestling friends are sitting in the crowd, and you don't notice unless you like been in the cage. There's a King of the Cage. They have all the lights, so you can't really see faces in the crowd. But I look out and I see one of my friends standing on his chair. And I see a shadow jumping up and down, yelling, "Look at me!" Because somebody is about him. And my other buddy, who's like 6'3", 320 pounds, I see this other massive figure just like shaking his hands up in the air. And then another side story: we walk in the locker room, change right away. Walk out, they're all staying right there. First thing that happens is they just hand me a beer. And I don't think I drank water that whole rest of that night.
I'm sure you did.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and afterwards it was rewarding, and just having everybody there. My dad was there, my friends were there, you guys were there. We went out for a little bit afterwards.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was awesome. I'd say one of the highlights, just obviously Will being the first fighter, that was one of the highlights. Then you right after being the first MMA fight, I mean, that stuff we'll never forget, you know. And so after that, and actually the guy that he fought his debut fight went on to be. I haven't checked his record in long. I mean, it's been years.
It'll be like 3 or 4-1. I don't think he's fighting anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if he went pro, but he ended up doing like a 3-fight win streak after he lost to Alex. So actually was fought on like BFC, I think is Miami or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he had like all finishes. I was like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah.
That's always cool. You always want to see the people you beat in MMA. You want to see them go on and succeed and do well because it just, I mean, obviously it just looks better for you. So then after that, we went on to your second fight, which was
Steve Rodriguez.
Yeah, Steve Rodriguez. That was December of that year.
Yeah.
So you had a little bit of a break in between. You wanted to get you in there sooner, and just things.
Yeah,
didn't
well,
work
I started a new job 2
That's
days
right.
after the fight.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
I showed my first day of work with 2 black eyes because he popped me right in the eye.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
had to lie about it for a couple months until I'm like, by the way, I'm fighting, so this is gonna happen a lot.
And then so you fought Steve Rodriguez. That was another King of the Cage fight. So full pro rules. And a little backstory about Steve Rodriguez. He's actually come here to the gym and sparred and trained with us. You weren't there that day, were you?
No.
This was after you'd left. Great guy, honestly, great dude. Still
awesome
see him
guy.
to this day at tournaments and fights. Super awesome dude. Comes out of a good gym, Highland Fight Systems, out of Sheboygan. We knew a lot about Steve Rodriguez because this was Alex's second amateur fight. This was Steve's
6 or 7.
Yeah, something like that. And we knew of him because he was coming into the fight with a 3-2 record, and he had just lost his fight before that. So
Pure FC title,
yeah, he fought for a Pure FC amateur title against Nelly Thompson, who some of you guys, when you're watching this, if you were at the Oshkosh fights in February, Nelly Thompson versus Frank Schumann was the main event. So Steve Rodriguez, the guy that Alex fought his second fight, had fought Nelly. Nelly went on obviously to have quite a storied amateur career, and he's still 4-1 now as a pro. I mean, he's a beast. Steve, lost that fight. That was the night of my second amateur fight, and Steve actually fought my debut amateur fight too. So we had kind of knew him real well. I mean, we've seen him 2 fights in a row, and just like that naturally happens. Just 2 perennial guys coming up in the state, you kind of meet. Comes from a good gym, good jiu-jitsu guy. I mean, I've never seen him not take gold at a tournament when it comes to jiu-jitsu. I've actually competed against him in a jiu-jitsu tournament, funny enough. Did not go well for me. But then I ran that back once he came to the gym and sparred, so that was fun. But and Brian Baumgart was there that day too. So tell us about your feelings and emotions going into that one. Obviously, having the first fight, a little bit of a layoff, and not crazy, right? But like 8 months, something like that. And then now you're going against a guy who fought for an amateur title. This is your second ever fight. This is his, like you said, 6th or 7th. And especially that night, I was fighting the same night. We had Jackson fighting. I fought an hour before him, and then I went and cornered him after.
First fight.
Yeah, it was the first fight of the night. And then we had Jackson, and then you were the last one of our team. What are you smiling about? I already see something coming.
So here's the thing with Andrew. Andrew drives me crazy at fights because he's so relaxed, and I take everything so seriously. It's like we're sitting there. We get in the building. I'm already in sweatpants. I have my fight shorts on. I still have my cup on. Like I'm pretty much ready. I'm ready to get my hands wrapped in advance. Look up. We're in the fighters meeting. All the other first fights, the guy who's fighting has his hands taped. Steve has his hands taped. Yeah. Everybody's taped up. Andrew's in jeans and boots and a t-shirt, just like not even paying attention. Just yeah, cool. And I'm like, we need to do this. We got 3 fights. And I only had one hand wrap before Jackson went out too. Yeah. So I was freaking out because I'm really about being prepared and being ready, and it's part of my whole thing. But yeah, it was a little that was a little stressful for me that day because you're just taking it relaxed, and Jackson's relaxed about everything. And I'm super serious.
Yeah, you're like the only one who's stressing out, like on the inside, or on the outside. Yeah. Yeah, well, and then too, another side story was right before he's about to go out, we're trying to warm him up. I was warming him up, and before we can even do that, he has to put the King of the Cage gloves on, right? Well, because King of the Cage has such nice quality gloves that everybody wears for the fights, it literally rips and tears as we're trying to slide it over his hand wrap. So he wore like a medium on one hand and a large.
I did use your glove. I did take your medium. I had one hand was the largest that I wore. And I had somehow the medium didn't rip.
Yeah, somehow.
You had a glove that you hadn't given back yet, so I wore that one.
That's right, yeah. So it tears, and he's already stressed out about us being a little bit behind time, getting ready, and then his freaking glove rips. But yeah, so with all that, what was that fight like? Like leading up to it, were there any more nerves because of the opponent?
Yeah, I actually felt not so much. There's definitely nerves. I actually felt more pressure because personally, I felt like I kind of called Steve out. because we had an opponent. I don't remember who it was. They backed out.
We did actually ask
and then
for
we were
Steve, yeah.
because then they offered us Nick Klein.
That's
who
right.
Is a monster of a man. But
Yeah.
I was like, they asked me to go up. I was like, no, I'm 170. I'm not going up to 185.
Yeah.
And he couldn't make the weight.
Yeah.
And so with that, like I remember just being kind of pissed off about that. And I remember looking at David going, fuck it, call Jason Mills, tell him we want Steve.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like,
we did.
Cause
yeah.
I knew Steve was like, he was ranked like 2 or 3 in the state at the time, and it seemed like a good match. I liked the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
I knew obviously he had really good jiu-jitsu, but I felt like I could just neutralize it. I was really confident for that. Still nervous, but actually, after I did that, I felt a lot more pressure because I felt like I don't really like calling people out. I don't like talking shit to opponents like that. I never talked shit to him, but I remember being like, I called him out. He's like, he is for sure motivated for this. That I asked for him because they came back immediately and said, "Yep, we'll do it."
Yeah. Well, I'm sure in their minds too. I mean, you're 1-0. You're a college wrestler. They're thinking, just typical college wrestler. And I remember him saying after the fight, we'll get into that after, but him kind of saying that he did not expect what you did to him in the fight. And we're gonna be I'm gonna be breaking down all of his fights as well for you guys too, so that'll be fun.
The big change for that fight was we started going. Like I went to HQ a lot.
Yeah.
And I was doing morning sessions down there.
That's right.
And I took a couple days off from work. I went down and did pad sessions with Joe Nichols. And he was a great coach, great pad holder, great strategist too. Like he watched one of his fights. Well, here's what you're gonna do.
Yep.
And then he remembered it was King of the Cage with elbows, and he's like, and he just threw it because never mind. Here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And I did 2 or 3 pad sessions with him, and every time it just felt better and better and better. I remember coming back doing boxing sparring one day and being like, I've never felt this good with my hands, or with my striking.
Yeah. Yeah. You were really crisp for that. For that fight.
We did a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
And then getting there, the fight didn't start off great. Threw a leg kick, he dumped me right away.
That's right, he caught it, right?
He caught it, put me right on my ass,
Yeah.
And then I got up right away, so it was fine, but it took me a minute to get in the groove, which I've always, even wrestling, I was always a slow starter. And just followed the game plan, and stuck to a lot of elbows, a lot of knees in the clinch.
Yeah, that was one thing we worked a lot, was a lot of ground and pound with elbows, just trying to get the technique down.
Yeah, we knew he was looking for a double leg. I figured he's a good jiu-jitsu guy. We figured he was looking for me to take a shot and look for a guillotine. So pretty much no doubles, no shots, just really work the clinch and work my dumps and everything like that. And I got a knee tap in the first and finished the round on top, and then dropped him in the second. Yeah, with an elbow and then a jab cross.
Yeah, that's right. I think you dropped him with us like a switch hook was the first one.
I rocked him with the cross, and then it was a switch.
That's right.
Switch hook.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you performed so good in that fight. It was almost like unbelievable how good you looked in the clinch part. You had him against the cage. You're using the plum, picking elbows. Like you quite literally looked like a seasoned pro. I mean, you don't see amateurs look like that with elbows and knees to the head when they can actually compete with full pro rules. I mean, you just don't. It's very rare,
And I've especially for all my other fights, that was the one I was most focused. I remember as soon as I even walking in, I just knew I was in the zone. I just was still nervous, but more relaxed and kind of excited for it. And just zone. I still remember parts of it because I watched it back. It was afterwards. Yeah. I remember you and David telling me things. I'm like, I don't think that happened. I just didn't remember
that flow
of the fight because I was just locked in. Yeah. I remember the ref was staring at me because I was you and Dave were talking to me in the corner. I was staring out, and the ref's looking at me. What the hell is he staring at? And I'm just blank stare, straight ahead.
Yeah, and you won that fight by actually their corner threw the towel in, right? Or was it a TKO stoppage?
It was a corner stoppage.
Basically,
a certain referee wouldn't step in.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was. I actually watching it back too. I actually feel bad. I'm like, wow, it was brutal. So you overcome that. You're 2-0. You just beat. Your first fight. Obviously, you fought a debut guy, which again came from a legit gym, but. At that point, you're like, okay, just a little step up, but we took a big step up, really. And we kind of, especially getting into your last MMA fight, we took a big step up. So after beating Steve, we moved on. You're 2-0, 2 finishes, and then we ended up. I don't quite remember how we I guess got into the transition of the Dante Schiro fight, but
we were looking for a fight around that time.
Yeah,
just it was enough time in between that we done some jiu-jitsu tournaments. I identified for a couple because you were fighting, and it just that one sucked. King Cage kind of sucked because you were fighting and I was getting ready, and it was a lot of stress.
Yeah, it was.
Especially normally we corner each other.
Yeah.
So that was, I knew I couldn't corner you in that because I wanted to be focused, and so I was like, I know you fought right after that, or no, you didn't fight it. Did you fight it?
I think I had some scheduled and
yeah,
it fell
that's right.
through. I got injured or something.
Yeah.
Then you fought May of 2018, right? That was Dante Schiro fight.
2017 maybe.
No, it's 2018 because you made your debut 2017 of March, then fought December.
Yeah, so it'd be 2018.
Yeah, so May of 2018 because then I fought a couple months later for the PRFC title and all that.
And that was like, they just couldn't find anybody to fight him.
Yeah, so Dante Schiro at the time was 5-1, right?
Yeah.
He'd lost his amateur debut, and then he went on a 5-fight finish streak after that. Beat all pretty good guys. Came from Chosen Few Gym. We fought him for the Chosen Few welterweight title at Chosen Few Fighting Championships in Madison. So we're literally fighting the hometown guy in his hometown on the hometown promotion ran by the gym that he trains at for the title. So took a big step up. Alex being 2-0, fighting a guy with 6 fights. And this guy was not an ordinary guy. I mean, he went on to
be 4 or 5-1 now as a pro.
I think he's 5. I think he's 5-2 because he actually just lost another decision.
Did he?
He fought somewhere in Switzerland or something weird. But Dante Schiro went 5-0 as a pro, all finishes, except for one, but fought on LFA. Even beat some really, really tough competition as a pro, and fought in 1FC actually. So he fought actually a former 1FC champion, I believe, in his debut.
Yeah, it was the #1 title contender fight. He took on something crazy, like a 2-week notice. It was a 4-day flight.
Yeah, it was in Malaysia. So he had a Singapore.
It was like a 30-hour flight or something.
Yeah, and the guy he fought actually had fought Ben Askren.
Yeah,
crazy enough.
Split decision too.
Yeah, and Dante looked really good in that fight. So, looking back, obviously we didn't know he was going to go on to do that, but we knew this guy was really good and really tough. I don't know what kind of wrestling. I think he wrestled college.
A year in college, yeah.
Yeah. And so, we just knew he's a powerful, aggressive dude. So, tell us about that mindset going into that fight. Obviously, ended up losing, unfortunately. But what was that like fighting for the title in his hometown? Was there a lot of extra pressure, would you say?
Not so much extra pressure. It was actually kind of less pressure because you're in his hometown. Everybody there hates you anyways.
Yeah.
Except for your little pocket.
And you beat 2-0 probably.
Yeah, we only took them a month and a half notice. It wasn't that long of notice. We were training. We were always training. It wasn't like I was out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not so much more pressure. I knew he was tough. I knew what he was coming with. He knocked people out cold.
Mm-hmm.
He's second fight, he knocked the guy out cold. He'd been finishing people.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he was really well rounded. And so my whole thing was I wanted to out wrestle him right away, just because he beat a lot of people wrestling, and I kind of wanted to try to set that tone.
Mm-hmm.
Started off well.
Yeah, we did, and
then I made a mistake of I was in a single on a cage, and instead of moving my feet to get in tighter, I popped my shoulder out and readjusted, which is something that happens all the time in wrestling. It's just I don't know, in the moment, just didn't think about it and caught a tight guillotine, and that was it.
That was it. Yeah, in the first round. It's one of those things, right? Especially a tough guy like that. Also too, their gym. Now looking ahead, they've had guys fight for the PFL championships for $1 million.
Yeah, Polizzi's really good. Limager's really good.
Yeah, Alex Polizzi, LFA champion, Bellator now. Alex Gilpin.
Yeah, Gilpin's really good. He fought Palmer 3 times already.
Yeah, in a year. All those dudes are super good at front headlock chokes, ninja chokes, guillotines, which obviously we didn't really necessarily know until now.
Yeah.
But seeing that trend, it's like, wow, those guys are very good in that area. Dante was one of those killers where you just give him an opening, he's going to take it. But yeah, you did great in the fight up until that point, obviously, but lifted him up with basically one arm. The look on his face and the look on his cornerman's face when that happened was holy shit. I'd never seen him come out so hesitant in a fight either, and this is stuff I'll get into in the breakdown when we do it. But
he blitzed people all the time. That was the first one where it was we both spent probably the first 20 seconds just sizing each other up, just kind of moving around.
You could tell he didn't know what to expect. He was
because we didn't have we had tape on him. He didn't have anything on us.
That's true, right?
So
right,
because even the UFC Fight Pass fights hadn't come out yet. They hadn't released them, so he had no video on me.
Yeah, he just knew.
Even I had no college wrestling matches on YouTube.
Yeah,
I had nothing on YouTube.
Yeah,
so it was.
You're just a silent assassin coming in.
So
yeah,
he didn't know anything, which I get it. That's how I felt my first fight. I didn't know anything.
Yeah,
it was more nerve-wracking when you don't know. The unknown's always scarier.
For sure.
So I think that for him was he definitely, I think he wanted to see if I was going to come out and strike or come out and wrestle, and I came out wrestling, and he caught me.
Yeah. And looking back on it, it's like you can hindsight's always 20/20, right? But
yeah.
Excuse me. How did you feel? Obviously, extremely disappointed. That was a tough night for everybody. That was the first loss of our gym, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fought for an amateur title. What were the feelings like losing your first fight? What did that feel like? What were you thinking?
I mean, it was definitely rough. Which I know you didn't find out until after. Like, I actually had a lot of family stuff going on with that. I had an uncle who was dying of brain cancer. I had a friend back home who had leukemia.
Mm-hmm.
So I was dealing with a lot of stuff, and especially like that fight, I really wasn't like loving MMA at the time, just because of all the other stuff going on.
Yeah, it just kind of like drained your like passion for it.
Yeah, it definitely didn't help.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, like, I remember feeling like I just let everybody down. Like, I remember apologizing to you and David as soon as you walked in the cage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt I lost the undefeated record for the gym. I felt like I let my family down. I felt like I let my friends down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was definitely rough. And it's not like there's a difference between losing a wrestling match, which always sucked, but it's different. Like losing in front of a crowd like that, where everybody's focused on you. There's nothing else going on. There's not 5 other wrestling matches.
For sure.
Everybody in that place wants you to lose anyways, which I just remember being pissed about because I wanted to. I
wanted
wanted to win. I wanted to hop up on the cage with that belt and have like the 10 people who were with us cheering, and then everybody else is, because even I lifted, the whole place went quiet. I'll never forget like that. I had that silence.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it was really disappointing, and it didn't help what I had going on.
Right.
Anyways, I mean, it was definitely rough, but I mean, worked through it, and then
yeah. No, and then obviously too, you ended up getting a job opportunity and moving away. So I ended up not fighting after that.
Mm-hmm.
You have any plans on fighting again, maybe, or just see where life takes you?
See where life takes me.
Yeah.
I'd like to get one more.
Yeah. Just to not go out on a loss.
Yeah, just not go out on a loss. But like right now, like I'm in grad school.
Yeah.
I'm working a full-time job, working a part-time job. I'm trying to train in the middle and coaching wrestling. So right now, it just feels like, I mean, I feel like I still could absolutely take a fight against a regular amateur and win.
Oh, for sure.
But also, like me, I don't want tomato cans. I don't like.
It doesn't pump you up.
Yeah, it doesn't get me excited. So and to put in the preparation that, like, we were in here all the time, every fight camp, every day, before practice, after practice.
Oh yeah.
I was always doing something. I was always getting extra runs in. And right now, like, I honestly just don't have the time to put in the level of commitment that would make me comfortable with fighting again.
For sure.
I mean, if it changes in the next year, I'd love to. Maybe somebody in my gym now pulls out on short notice, I might be able to step in. But as of right now, it's just jiu-jitsu and wrestling.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I just remember wanting to, when you moved away, I just like hoping to God that you still kept training, because you're just too good of a grappler and a fighter, and just too good in the sport that to like let that go to waste. And obviously, you've competed a bunch of times since then, professional grappler.
That's a bit of a stretch, but yeah.
Yeah, come on. One thing I wanted to mention too was that there's literally only one tournament you ever competed in jiu-jitsu that you haven't taken gold place in. Obviously, it ended up being IBJJF. This is your first tournament as a blue belt. That was a rough
blue
one.
belt the week before.
Yeah, that was a rough one to do. But yeah, so moving on from that, what would you say the sport of MMA has taught you, if anything?
It's a really tough one, because so much of what I brought, like, for me mentally to MMA came from wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's definitely taught me a lot of things. It taught me to be like well-rounded. It taught me to be like more accepting of other things, which I always kind of had in wrestling. But even then, like, I didn't want to be, even like, remember training, I didn't want to be the stereotypical wrestler with like a big right hand and just like only throwing overhands. I wanted to try to be a fluid striker. I wanted to try to learn everything. So it taught me to be like open-minded and always willing to accept other things and to accept what other people do. And no, like, obviously, I'm not doing some things that like Anthony Pettis is going to do things I'm not, because I wrestled. He did Taekwondo.
Right.
But accepting other backgrounds and just listening.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has something they might do a little bit differently. And it's even just like you and David would tell me things all the time, and then I'd go down to HQ and Duke would say it just like a little bit differently, or Joe would say it a little bit differently, and it would just click immediately.
Yeah.
And so just always kind of knowing where your base is, knowing like these are your coaches, this is your gym, but always kind of pulling a little bit from everything.
Yeah.
Everybody has an opinion, and like
Sometimes
professional always says, there's no right, there's no wrong, there's just different
preferences. You know?
Yeah, just preferences, and maybe how somebody does it works better for me, and maybe how somebody else does it works better for you. So really, just being open-minded and pulling in from everybody, even if it's like a white belt. If I would go to HQ and a white belt was trying to show me a Kimura, I'd let him show me. I'll see what you do. Maybe you do a little bit differently than I do.
Right.
So always just being open-minded and just taking in new things.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great, and I mean, anybody in anything could use more open-mindedness about just taking criticism and opinions from other people, you know. So, you know, some people watching this video might be getting ready for the first fight, or others, you know, that train at the gym here that, you know, maybe one day want to do MMA or just dream of it. And believe it or not, you might inspire somebody from this video to do it, believe it or not. So what was prepping mentally for your first fight like? Like, what was that like? You know, I mean, was it much different than wrestling in that sense?
It was only different because it was longer. Like wrestling, you prep for like you might have a couple days in between a match that you think, especially in college, you know who your opponents are. I mean, there's only so many college programs. There's only so many people who could step in the lineup. Like, you know who you're gonna wrestle. So like that, like you're prepping 2 or 3 days ahead. Like I've always been kind of obsessive and just thinking about it and watching tape and focusing on what I do and how am I going to handle this, playing situations. So really the only difference was, you know, you had 8 to 10 weeks to think about it, which isn't always the best. But I was obsessive. Like I remember when I fought Steve, I watched every night. I would put on I had 4 of his fights on YouTube. I watched every one every night, and it helped me a lot because I found little things that ended up helping me, just little niches he had and little tells. And just obsessing about playing and for me, I couldn't go into a fight unless I accepted that I could lose. Same thing with a wrestling match. Like I remember every fight I always think about how can this guy beat me. For the first fight, it was, well, this guy could knee me in the face as I go for a double leg. Or this guy could just crack me. He was coming from a kickboxing. He could head kick me or crack me with a good shot and put me out cold. With Steve, it was he could catch me with a guillotine. He could catch me with a heel hook. There's a lot of options. And Dante, there was all sorts of options. So it was really just, I had to accept what the possibilities were. And after I accepted those, look at what I do well and where I could win. And then more of focus, after I accepted it, I could focus on myself. And same thing as a wrestling match, just add 8 weeks to it instead of a day or an hour.
Well, and I think that's usually what hurts people too in the long run is, you know, it's getting ready for an MMA fight is just so much different because of that. The mental side is so much harder, I think, just because of that. Exactly. Like you're thinking about the specific date and that's all you can obsess about. And when you obsess, some people just don't do well with that, you know. No, that's great. I think we already kind of went over this question. So you know, something we were talking about last night that I think would be beneficial for everyone to hear, especially the wrestlers watching. You know, a lot of wrestlers coming into BJJ and MMA tend to not embrace jiu-jitsu fully or embrace, you know, training in the gi, which Professor talks about all the time. He hates that. What advice would you give to those people? You know, how has embracing jiu-jitsu fully helped your development as a martial artist, jiu-jitsu grappler, you know, MMA fighter?
Again, it kind of comes from being open-minded. And again, my first, up until I got my blue belt, I really was, and we talked about it yesterday, I considered myself more of a catch wrestler than a jiu-jitsu player. I never pulled guard. I had I think I had a half butterfly sweep that in case I got to put on my back, I could just get to my feet. It wasn't even a sweep. It was just an escape.
Off.
And so I really didn't, and I never really had it where wrestling was the end-all be-all. And that's something is, any high school wrestlers, no offense to you, but in college, you get the ego kicked out of you real fast. And in high school, a lot of times, you're the best guy in the room. And so you only have a narrow point of view and you're not as accepting of other things. And as a high school wrestling coach now, I see it all the time. And it's really frustrating. And a lot of wrestlers have this thing, which wrestling is a great sport. I have never talked about wrestling. It really gave me my life. I probably wouldn't have gone to college if it hadn't been for wrestling. I was never really that interested in just going to college and studying. So it gave me wrestling. It led me to jiu-jitsu. It led me to fighting. It led me to a lot of my friends. Really all my friends now have come through grappling of some sort.
I'm his best friend, so.
He reminds me daily. But for me, it was really, a lot of wrestlers take wrestling and add jiu-jitsu to it. Where I really wanted to learn jiu-jitsu and add wrestling to it. So for me, especially after IBJJF, when I got tapped with the gi twice, it took me like I was like, I'm fully invested in the gi and really learning
all the little nooks and
yeah.
crannies.
Now, like in my gym now, the biggest compliment I got, which meant the most to me, was purple and brown belts telling me, like, you know, it wasn't submission, it wasn't my wrestling. They come in like, you're really hard to hold down a guard. Like your guard passing has gotten a lot better, which for me was a really satisfying of like buying into jiu-jitsu and being like, okay, because before I just kind of get a double leg or a single and just jump around and try to avoid guard completely. Where now, I want people to be in half guard. I want to be in people's half guard. I want to be in open guard. Like I'm comfortable passing, and I do a lot of stuff with the gi now, a lot of loop chokes and bow and arrows and gi grips, stuff that I didn't used to do. So really, just being open to jiu-jitsu for a wrestler and adding adding what you already know to that instead of adding that to what you already know. Is a huge difference.
Yeah. No, I think you nailed it right on the head. Is what you said before is instead of adding jiu-jitsu to your wrestling, adding wrestling to your jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? I think that you just nailed that on the head perfectly. I remember, and still to this day, I mean, when we roll, I mean, it's insanely hard. I mean, you can tap me out from closed guard, triangles, omoplatas, arm bars. Those are things that like college wrestlers normally don't do.
And a lot of the wrestlers I see that have the most success are college wrestlers. And it's not just because they can take people down and might encourage you. We have a D1 wrestler who just wrecks everybody. And I mean, yeah, he's massive. He's strong as hell, but he also has good guard passing. He'll pull guard on you, and he's hard to pass his guard. He'll go inverted and keep you in his guard. But then he'll also just crush you too when he gets to the position. Like he can do both.
Yeah.
Where I have found, again, no offense to high school wrestlers, but they don't accept that as much. They're not as open to learning the guard and learning triangles and arm bars. It's pretty much, I see a lot of high school wrestlers. Even now, I coach a couple who do jiu-jitsu, and all day like Kimura, guillotine, rear naked choke. All you need is a wrestler.
Yeah.
Not really true. You need to know everything, not just so you can do it, but so you can defend it and be better overall with it.
And fill in the gaps in between, you know? Yeah, no, totally. And before we move on to our last question, you know, give a quick shout out to where do you train now? You're still part of the Carlson Gracie team, which is awesome.
Carlson Gracie team, Aurora, with black belts, Professor Brian Bishop, Jeff Neal, and Larry Linderman. But those are the three guys I train under now. It's a great group.
Yeah.
Awesome group. I coach, it's 10 minutes from the high school I coach at.
Yeah, and give a quick shout out to the high school that you're
Tia Valley High School. First year program with a new coaching staff, so it's rough, but we'll build up from it.
Yeah, hopefully you don't screw those kids up too bad. On to our last one here. Just tell us, tell everybody how training at, the gym here at Roufusport Appleton has impacted your life, if at all, or just how it impacted your experience, for MMA, getting into it, that kind of thing. Just any closing thoughts, like, about the gym and your experience that you were a member here? Yeah,
well, the gym's amazing. Like, I probably would have left. I probably would have only been in Wisconsin for a couple months if it hadn't been for the gym. Like, that was the main, like you and David and all the friends I made up here made it hard for me to leave.
Yeah. And
so I spent my original plan was to come to Wisconsin, transfer to Chicago, or transfer to Indianapolis within like 3 months.
Yeah.
And I got here and I got hooked on it. And I liked the environment, and I loved training, and I loved, like, especially the gym was new. You were still a blue belt, so like it was a lot of fun because we were constantly growing off each other.
Yeah.
It was even like you'd go to HQ and bring something back, and I'd go to HQ and bring something back.
Yeah.
And then we're always adding new things. It was a lot of fun just to, like, this free flowing development was a lot of fun. And it helped me still today. Like, again, I have no problem with somebody hits me with a lasso guard. Like, I'm not going to do a lasso guard, but I'll learn it from them just so I can defend it.
Right.
And so, like, that really developed me, and that made me, that kept me in Wisconsin longer than I was originally planning on. And then it makes it seem like I never come back. I'm only 3 hours away, so I come back when I can.
No, we still give them shit to this day. I just always ask them to move back because selfishly, one of my best training partners, like, quite literally, I don't know how I would have been able to do so good and be so successful in my amateur MMA career without this guy right here. I mean, he taught me, I don't want to say every single thing I know about wrestling. I learned so many good things from Coach Chuck here at the gym, David, obviously, and then everybody at Roufusport HQ in Milwaukee. But this guy quite literally has impacted my wrestling, I think, the most out of anybody I've ever met. My grappling, not just my wrestling, but and also striking too. I mean, he used to be my pad holder. We held pads for each other every 3-4 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week. You know, so yeah, I mean, you've changed my life for sure. I mean, being one of my best friends still to this day, and you know, I think you know, David would say the same, and yeah, I still wish he'd move back, but yeah. So no, I thank you so much, dude, for your time. If there's anything else you want to add, you know, the floor is yours.
No, not really. This is a great gym. Anybody who comes here, if you buy in, you're going to get the most out of it. Can't have an ego, even when you're learning. And check out the wrestling videos. I'm assuming most of you guys need it. But
he's a dick, so that hasn't changed. But with that being said, thank you guys for your time. Hope you enjoyed. You know, just something to kind of tide you guys over while we're still waiting to open back up here during this mess. And yeah, you know, really listen to some of the stuff he said, especially those wrestlers that are watching. You could learn a lot by the mindset and approach that he's taken to MMA. Had he not left us hanging dry because he's you know, he's selfish and, you know, got a good job. No, had he stayed here though and not got that good job opportunity, I mean, 100% this guy would be a professional right now. And I mean, literally the possibilities were limitless for him, but not because he was this stud wrestler that came from college, you know, and just was 100-0 and never lost. I mean, it was his mindset, his approach to training, his approach to learning, and his open-mindedness that we touched on before. Truly is what I think your best asset was, because you weren't closed it off to anything, and your work ethic really too. You know, your heart and your work ethic, I think, were definitely your best attributes.
oh, thanks, buddy.
You're welcome. He's kind of smart, but it's like certain things. He's got a history degree. It's useless, but yeah. All right, had to add that in there. So we razz each other like brothers, because truly I look at him like a brother. So again, thanks for your time, brother. Hope you guys enjoy and check it out. Thanks.